Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of the Storytime Society. I'm your host Jamie and I'm so happy you're here. I'm so glad you're alive. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode. Love you so much. Okay, today's theme is bad roommates. I know you guys liked the last video that I put out about bad roommates, so we're doing another one, okay? For the sake of love. Get your drinks, join me in story time. I have a cinnamon roll latte. I did cinnamon with a little vanilla and some brown sugar. So that's my latte today. All right, the title of the first story is Am I the asshole for telling my roommate his girlfriend can't stay over every weekend after she ate all my food again? So I own my apartment and rent out the second room to a buddy of mine. Everything was cool at first, but lately his girlfriend has been staying over every weekend. I wouldn't mind so much if it wasn't for the fact that every time she's here, she helps herself to my stuff, mainly my food. I meal prep for the week and I buy my own groceries. It's not like I don't share sometimes, but I've noticed that after every weekend she's here, a bunch of my food is gone. Snacks, leftovers, even stuff like my eggs and bread, just gone. I've tried hinting at it, like casually mentioning how much food I go through, but it keeps happening. Last weekend, I had a really long week at work, so I treated myself to some nice takeout and planned to save half of it for lunch the next day. The next morning, I opened the fridge and it's gone. I texted my roommate and he said, "Oh, my girlfriend was hungry, so she ate it. Sorry, man." That was the last straw. I told him we needed to talk and said that while I'm okay with her visiting sometimes, she can't keep staying over every weekend and eating my food. I told him it's not fair, especially since she's not contributing to groceries or utilities. He got defensive, saying that since he pays rent, she should be able to stay over whenever, and I'm making a big deal out of just a few snacks. I stood my ground and told him she needs to stop coming over so often unless they start buying their own food and being more considerate. Now he's pissed at me and I'm getting the cold shoulder. Am I the asshole for putting my foot down after his girlfriend kept eating all my food? I mean, obviously not. Like, this is a pretty simple one. Although I would have recommended, like, instead of just hinting at her eating, why not just confront it head on? Not saying you have to, like, obviously not everyone's comfortable with doing it face to face, but you could have even just been like texted him earlier and been like, "Hey, your girlfriend needs to stop eating my food," so that at least, like, I don't know. I mean, it's obviously common sense, like, you don't eat your roommate's food, especially like just in general. You just don't do that. And then yeah, that's common sense. Like, I don't know what's wrong with this girl where she thinks that she's entitled to eating other people's food, and like that's kind of honestly insane to me. I would be so pissed, but I would have said something about it right when it happened and been like, actually, don't eat that. Don't eat my stuff ever again." I'm not like, what? I don't I'm not sharing with anyone. I'm paying for my groceries and I'm eating my groceries, and if you eat any more of my stuff, then you can't come over anymore. Especially the fact that it's his girlfriend and not even like his roommate, the one like being the one to steal the food. It's just a little bit insane. So obviously no, you're not the asshole. But like I said, you should have said something to begin with. Not saying that it's your fault, obviously, but yeah. Okay. Some of the comments. Not the asshole, but dude, don't hint. Hinting often fails, and then everyone ends up irritated because you hold it in until you snap, and the other person may not understand you have a problem until you're well and truly mad at them. So they feel like you went 0 to 60 in a heartbeat. Clear, assertive communication is a far better way to go about things, especially with a roommate. Yeah, this is like so real, so true. I mean, obviously, there's times where it's so uncomfortable to confront someone in person, and I understand that 100%. I've been in those situations where I've been like, oop, so I just text, whatever. And I mean, I definitely think that I feel like a lot of people go through like a phase. I don't know. Well, I feel like when I was younger, I was very much probably a bad roommate at some like my first ever time living in an apartment with roommates. I was so picky about the way that I lived. I'm going to admit it. I was definitely probably annoying as fuck, but I was so annoyed every time like my roommates would leave on the lights. I would be like, "You need to shut off the lights." even though it's not doesn't make that big of a difference, but I think I was just so frustrated at like a few things. Like my roommate would charge her car in the garage, which I don't know how much that cost, but I just feel like it's a little bit weird for us to be paying all of the electricity bill when you're charging your car. But then again, like, I don't know, is it like $1 a month to charge your car? Because obviously that's not that big of a deal. But at this time of my life, I was like 19, 20 years old. I was poor as fuck. So, like, I was always anxious. And obviously, like, I was projecting that onto my roommates and being like stressed and being like, we need to keep the air at this temperature so that the bill's not super high. The bill for this house, the electricity bill, was always insanely high because it was a 4-bedroom like condo. It had 3 levels, and I just always got so stressed because I was like, I can't afford to be paying like a shit ton of money for the AC to be running at 69 degrees every night, you know? Like, I was just always so stressed. And obviously, like, there needs to be compromise. And I've obviously learned that as I've gotten older. So I can admit and attest and own up to the fact that at some time I definitely probably was a bad roommate. Like, me and my one roommate really didn't get along. So I think I let out my anger on her a lot more. And I'm not saying that's a good thing or justified whatsoever. I really don't think that it was. And honestly, if I were her, I would hate me. But she also, like, we would go back and forth with saying, like, ridiculous things like, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And I think it just started to become, like, a war of, like, who is gonna, well, I don't know, it's who's gonna get annoyed at the next thing. You know what I mean? Like, I think it was just like going back and forth, and she just like wasn't a nice person. So I definitely was like letting that reflect on the way that I was acting and getting annoyed at so much stuff. Like, I don't know, I'm not meant to live with roommates. I don't think, unless it's like my friends, I definitely think I got way better at living with roommates after probably a year, and then realizing like what the hell's wrong with me. Like, these people, they probably hate me because I'm trying to like keep the bills down so much, just because I was like so poor and I was a college student, and I was always stressed about money because I didn't have any. And yeah, so I don't know. I definitely think my last probably 2 years living in that apartment. So what I would do is like I'd always be like, okay, this is how I'm gonna go about it. I'm not gonna become friends with my roommates. Like, I'm gonna keep our relationship roommate and that's it. Like, roommate to roommate and that's it. Like, I'll be kind to them, obviously. I'll be civil, I'll be nice. And then this ended up like backfiring on me, I think, because then I kind of didn't like, since we would never talk, we just barely even see each other in passing. It was like I didn't know them, so like I wasn't connecting with them, and so things that they did, I feel like made me more annoyed than they should have. And so I don't know, does that make sense? So then the third year that I lived there, I was like, you know what? Let's be friends. So these were different roommates at that time. And so the last 2 years of living there, I was like really good friends with two of my roommates. And one of them was, I told this story in another episode, but she like stole literally all my clothes once, and not even just my clothes, but it was my vintage store clothes that I was selling, and she would just wear them when I was out of town without asking. Yeah, that's a story that's in a different episode. But so that girl, I honestly forgave her though, and I was so nice about that situation. The way that I could have been actually such a cunt, see you next Tuesday, I could have been so rude. And I think a lot of people would have been, but I think at that point it was like my third year living with roommates, and at that point I was like, you know what? I don't want to I don't want bad blood with anyone. I'm maturing. I'm realizing like the way that roommates need to interact, and I'm living with this girl, so I don't want to have like bad blood with someone I'm living with. But two of my roommates, we were really close, and I actually just recently hung out with one of my roommates, but the other one moved to California, so I haven't seen her since like a year ago. But yeah, so then that's when I decided, like, okay, you know what? We're gonna be friends. We're gonna start a friendship, because then I will be less irritated if I'm connected to this person and like I love this person. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? I don't know. Anyways, let's read some more comments. Someone said, also, this might not even be the girlfriend's fault. The roommate knew those leftovers were OP's, but he just sat there and watched her eat them and said nothing. This isn't the first time either. The roommate has been watching his girlfriend eating OP's food all this time and never said squat. At best, that makes him complicit. At worst, the roommate might have outright told her to help herself, and she has no idea she's doing anything wrong. She might even be making food for the both of them, making roommate the responsible party. T. That's so true. Because, like, yeah, obviously you don't know. That could be your boyfriend's food, and he could be like, oh yeah, just have whatever you want. Like, he's fine with it, I'm fine with it, you know? You never really know. So it's truly is like the roommate's responsibility to communicate that with the girlfriend. Like, the boyfriend's responsibility to communicate that with the girlfriend so that she knows, obviously. Okay, not the asshole to your food, but at the same time, instead of hinting about your food missing, I think you should have just straight up told her that you'd appreciate if she stopped helping herself to something that's yours. If she continues to do it after that, and then it becomes a problem. Sis. But those are my thoughts on that. And I completely agree with the comments, obviously, because that's kind of what I basically said, the same thing that they said. Okay, next story title is, am I the asshole for not waking up my roommate on the day of his final med school exam? I, 23 male, and my roommate, Justin, 23 male, are med students. We've been living together as roommates for 2 years, and we live in a hostel. Last week were our final year exams, and it was absolute hell. We were surviving on 2 to 3 hours of sleep daily, fueled by coffee and energy drinks. I know it's not healthy, but there's no other way to pass, lol. On the last day of exams, Justin was unusually exhausted. Around 1 a.m., he decided to sleep and told me to wake him up at 3 a.m. I agreed. However, by 2:30 a.m., I was dead. My brain was shutting down, my notes were getting blurry, and I knew if I stayed up any longer, I would pass out. I decided to wake up Justin early. I woke him up at 2:30 a.m. and told him the time and suggested that he set an alarm so he wouldn't oversleep. Justin sat upright, rubbed his eyes, and nodded and said, all right. I was like, don't forget to set the alarm, and then almost instantly fell asleep. We both woke up at 8 a.m. I had set my alarm for 6, but I kept hitting snooze. Justin freaked out, accusing me of not waking him up as promised. I reminded him that I did wake him up at 2:30 and suggested that he set an alarm. Justin said that he was too sleepy to comprehend what was happening and insisted that I should have stayed awake to wake him up at 3 a.m. or at least made sure he was fully awake before sleeping. Justin's exam did not go well, and now he's blaming me. I understand the frustration, but I think he's being unfair. Am I the asshole? Obviously not. You're not the asshole. Are people okay? Like, genuinely, it's like, how do you not know that obviously you're not in the wrong for this? Like, you were up at 2:30, told him to get up. I need to go to sleep. I'm about to literally die because I'm so tired. Set your alarm. It's your responsibility. Now. Bye. I'm passing the baton to you, you know? Bye. Like, I'm going to sleep. I'm tired. So this is me waking you up. Like you said, I'm not staying up an extra 30 minutes. I'm fucking tired and I'm taking my exam tomorrow. Like, no. Come on. People, do better for yourselves. Like, realize that you're not in the wrong. I don't understand how people could even get that confused. Like, no. Okay, some of the comments. Is there a reason Justin couldn't set an alarm, or several? Also, is there a reason Justin thinks you're his mother? OP said exhaustion, most likely. Yeah, true, but like, at the end of the day, it is your responsibility to wake up. Even if the other guy fell asleep and didn't wake him up at all, I still would be like, okay, well, that's not my responsibility. And I was also tired and like delusional. So if you can blame it on being super tired and delusional, then so can I. At the end of the day, I would not trust anyone to do that. I'd be so stressed and anxious. I would be setting my alarm anyways because I'd be like, well, I can't count on him. He's tired. You kind of have to like take responsibility. You're literally an adult. You can do it, I promise. Okay, someone said that's kind of the point. You're exhausted too. Justin is responsible for Justin. I'm sorry he's being mean to you when none of this is your fault. And then someone said, that's not a reason. He shouldn't have asked in the first place. If it was just a normal, low-stakes cat nap, sure. But not for something important. He should have set his own alarm to begin with. 100%. And why can't you? Why are you not going to set your own alarm just to make sure? Because why are you putting that on him then to wake you up when you know that y'all are both tired and you guys both have gotten 2 to 3 hours of sleep a night? Someone said, "Do you breastfeed him?" This is wild. The guy can set an alarm. Someone said, "I too am curious whether you suckle each other for similar reasons." He's an adult. Learn how to adult. Depending on the phone or app he uses for alarms, he could have set 1 days in advance, even a full week before. Yes, things were hectic, but both of you knew the time of the exams ahead of time. He should have set an alarm even if he was wrongly relying on you to wake him up. You, who was clearly affected by the typical exam week, yet you still managed to set an alarm. He could have done it too. Also, what a jerk for blaming you for his mess up. First, for him not preparing to be on time, and secondly, for his poor performance on the exam. Yeah, none of it's your fault. Like, set an alarm. It's literally 2025. We can set alarms. We can set multiple alarms at the same time. We could set an alarm every 1 minute if you wanted to. It ain't that serious, like, I promise you. Obviously, he's gonna be pissed because he didn't do well on his exam, which, yeah, I would want to find someone to blame too, because usually when things, like, when I'm super frustrated in the moment, I'm looking for someone to blame. I know, that's a toxic trait of mine, okay? Usually it's my boyfriend. I'm like, ugh, you shouldn't have done that. Like, I'm trying to think of an example, but I'll be so annoyed, like, ugh, yeah, you shouldn't have done that, because now this, like, and I know. It's so mean. But when I'm frustrated, I'm so frustrated. And I'm like, ugh. I've been learning how to, like, just keep it in and be like, girl, calm down. But I've always struggled, I think, with a little bit of anger issues, to be honest. Like, I used to get so heated when I was younger in, like, an inexplainable way. Like, a rage inside of me that would just make me be like, ah, like I want to fucking scream so loud. And I've definitely worked on that a lot. So I'm very proud of my progress, but that's not to say that I still don't have my moments. Like, I think the other day, my boyfriend had set, so if you have an espresso machine, like Breville, you know that you have to dial in the beans, so you set it to, like, a certain grind to see what produces the best shot of espresso. And I had set it to a grind at like 5, I think, and I did it and it was like pulling way too much, so I made it like a 4 or like a 3 or something. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to try this one next time I make coffee. But then he was like, actually, I set it to like 2 down from what I ended up setting it to. And I, like, the next time I pulled a shot, it was so bad. Like, no espresso came out. Literally 2 grams of espresso came out. And I was so annoyed that I was like, why'd you do that? You shouldn't have done that. And I 100% blamed it on him. But, like, it was his fault, honestly. It was. But I should just, like, be like, ugh, okay, whatever. That's annoying, but whatever, you know. Because he was just, like, thought that that was, like, what he should do. So obviously we were both just trying our best. But I can't lie, I get frustrated. And when I get frustrated, like, I'm immediately like, who to blame? Who? Hello? You know, it's not good, but I'm working on it. Alrighty, let's go to the next story. This one has a few updates. They're short, but guys, my back is actually breaking and I need to stretch it out. Also, sorry if you can see my nipples because I have no bra on. Okay. I need to sit up straight because my back's, like, seriously crumbling. The title for the next story is, Am I the asshole for texting my roommate's boyfriend because she told me to? I, 23 female, live with 3 other girls. Kelly, 23, Gina, 22, and Jasmine, 20. We're college students in a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom duplex. I've lived here for 3 years. 2 of them with Gina. Before she moved in, I told her I'm strict about keeping shared spaces clean. She's an only child and had never lived with others, so it's been an adjustment for her, but she's improved. Except when her boyfriend, Jake, 22, is over. Jake lives with his parents and visits often, but he has zero regard for our space or basic etiquette. He's left trash around, size 13 shoes blocking the doorway, and stained my couch and rug with food. I've asked Gina multiple times to talk to him, but she just gets annoyed with me and says it's not her responsibility. The other roommates agree with my standards, but I'm usually the only one who speaks up. The final straw was one morning when I found our shared bathroom soaked. The floor mats and towels were drenched, the shower curtain was barely hanging, and there was clutter everywhere. Like Jake showered outside the shower. I couldn't even use the sink without cleaning up first. Then, when I went to make breakfast, I found their half eaten fast food left all over the stove. Frustrated, I threw it out. I texted Gina about this mess and she told me to bring it up directly with Jake since he did it. So I texted him, explaining that if he couldn't respect our space, he couldn't use anything I owned in the house, which includes most of the living room and kitchen items. He apologized but dismissed it as usual. He responded, "I'll just stay in Gina's room then." Gina texted me, hysterical and crying. She was on our porch telling Jake how unfair I was being, saying it's not her fault. She demanded I let Jake use my things, arguing it's her house too. I told her you can use her things in her space, like her room or the shared bathroom, but not mine. I pointed out that, like with a pet, she's responsible for her guests' mess. She's now telling people I'm banning Jake from the house. Not true. I just limited him to use my stuff. And they're threatening to report me. I laughed and said that they could. Am I the asshole? I haven't yelled, called names, or banned him. I just set boundaries with my things since he disrespects them. No, you're not the asshole. And literally, I can relate so hard to the being the only one that speaks up because I swear to God, when I was living with all my roommates, there was one girl in the first year that I lived there that I had been friends with previous to like living there, and we were really close, and we're still really close, but she lives in Tennessee, so we don't see each other but we that often, but we still talk. Anyways, that's besides the point. I don't know why I'm explaining that to you, but she and I would both like talk so much shit about our other roommates that we didn't know, like they were strangers to us, but they lived like, one of them went to my college, and then the other one I don't even know. So, yeah, I literally would always be the one to speak up, even because I would feel like, okay, she feels the same way. I would feel validated in the way that I was feeling. And then that would give me like an encouragement to be like, okay, I need to say something then. If it's bothering both of us, I should just speak up and say something. And like, she would constantly complain, and I would constantly complain to her, like that's totally fine. But then she would never say anything about it. I'd be like, girl, say something then if it's bothering you, because it would be something that would bother both of us like multiple times and it would happen over and over again, but she would never say anything. And then I would end up having to say something, which obviously I didn't have to say anything, but if I'm not going to, then who is going to? And then nothing's going to change. And I need something to change because like you're annoying. So, yeah. Anyways, there's this tiny update. This one says, update, Gina texted me asking me if we could talk. It's been 2 days since our fight, and she's usually either at work or at a friend's house until she's ready to sleep and comes home. Let's see how this goes. All right. Now, this is update 2. Am I the asshole for texting my roommate's boyfriend because she told me to? Update 2. Okay, so Gina and I talked. I was anticipating some epic showdown or something, but it's rather anticlimactic. Gina said she called her parents about the situation, totally thinking they would see it her way, but basically humbled her real quick. They were like, after everything she's done for you? Her parents are also not fans of Jake. Gina genuinely seemed sorry about everything. She said that if the roles were reversed, she'd feel the same or even worse. The only thing that irked me was that she explicitly made it a point to say she didn't like that I called her and Jake disrespectful, like out of everything, and I had to break it down. No, it was disrespectful. It means you blatantly disregard my patience by asking for how I would reasonably prefer my items to be treated the way I would like. It is also disrespectful for you to initiate your friends to message me because you explicitly know that they would message me. Gina closed her mouth and sat there for a sec before saying, "You're right. I'm sorry." Of course, she asked if Jake could come back. I reiterated I never banned him. I wanted them and Jake to respect my things. I reiterated that I asked multiple times before the bathroom incident to clean up after themselves. I delved deeper into the details of how destroyed the bathroom was. I told her every little thing I had to because they wouldn't or couldn't wait for them to maybe do it. Gina genuinely seemed apologetic and didn't realize everything I did. Gina and I have lived together for 2 years. She isn't some horrible person. I would have been long gone. Gina knows how I am, and I know who Gina was. I just never got the Jake version of Gina, and this seemed different this time. I decided Gina and I could compromise, but it would be on my terms. The minute that they forgot or fall back into being inconsiderate and disrespectful, I would ban him and report him. I made a non negotiable that Gina and Jake must ask before using my things, and of course, put everything back before the day is over. It's been a couple of days since this conversation, and Gina and Jake have kept their word about asking and cleaning up after themselves. Jake apologized to me in person and is cleaning up. Problem solved for now, but I doubt this is the end, though. Yeah, probably not. Like, I'm sure it's really hard to break people's habits, especially if they're an adult and they're still not really like learning how to keep things clean. And if they aren't the ones that are wanting to change, it's definitely hard to be the reason that someone changes. And it's annoying for sure, but I definitely think there's probably going to be a couple incidents because that's just like who they are as people. They're messy people, and messy people are really hard to unlearn being messy. And I can honestly say that my mom like would always clean up because I would clean my room and it was never good enough for her. Like she was like, "This is how you clean your room. This is so bad. I'm going to clean it." So I feel like she kind of like low key enabled me not being that clean. But as I've gotten older, I obviously like am living in my own space and I want to keep things clean. It's hard to keep things clean for me. I'm more of like I kind of make things messy and then every few days I have to do like a deep clean. And then it's like clean for a couple days and then it like starts to get messy again and then I do a deep clean again. You know what I mean? Like I'm not like a clean a little bit every day type of person, which I would love to be, but you know, you can only change so quick. Like I'm slowly trying to learn how to be better at that. But it's also I feel like me and my boyfriend are kind of the same in that way. And he's more of like a clean up all at once type of person as well as I am. But let's read some of the comments. Not the asshole. Who are they going to report you to? I know it's annoying, but can you lock up your kitchen stuff when it's not in use? Honestly, if they can't respect you or your stuff, I'd ban the BF from going over. They can hang out at his parents' house. OP said it's an off campus leasing office, which basically isn't affiliated with the college but deals mainly with students. There's policies that help protect leaseholders from other people's guests, but there's a lot of black and gray area that anyone can basically attest to. Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's kind of hard to do that. And then also, not only that, but like if you truly did ban him from coming over, that would kind of ruin you and Gina's relationship, which I'm sure she doesn't want because she's like good friends with her. So hi, sorry to interrupt, but if you would like to listen on Spotify, we have a link in the description below. And if you're there, give us a follow and rate us 5 stars. Love you. Okay, someone said, not the asshole. Are Gina and Jake really in their 20s? They sound like toddlers. Who do they want to report you to and for what? It's your home. If you don't allow someone to enter her tantrum, can't overwrite that no matter how much she wants to. Not wanting to have someone there in the house always overrules wanting someone in the house. And then Opie said, early 20s. We really try to be fair as possible and as considerate as we can. I never said he couldn't come over. I named and limited my items that he couldn't use, which is everything in the house. That Gina at one point thanked me for because she didn't have to buy anything. And then this person responded, then maybe you're the asshole for allowing him back in. If they want to hang out, they can do it at his parents' house. They clearly both need a mommy, so make it as easy as possible for them. And Opie said, ugh, darn it. I should report myself for being so unkind. LOL, Gina doesn't like being around his family and likes being in her own space. And obviously Jake doesn't want to be in his house when he can be free at his girlfriend's. Jesus. OP's responding to a lot of comments. Okay, this one says, not the asshole. Shared spaces don't have to be spotless, but they are leaving big messes. Waiting to clean up the kitchen until you are done eating is fine. Waiting 3 hours is not fine. OP said, I didn't say this is the post, but this in the post, but legit, all of this started at 6:30 a.m. when I woke up for work and everyone knows I work. Yeah, that's so annoying. I would hate that. I mean, obviously it's like you know that you need to clean the shared spaces. I did have a roommate which I was friends with, so you know, it's okay. but so I could like talk to her about it sometimes. But it was like the first year that we lived together, and that was the year that I was not being friends with my roommates. And then we lived together for 3 years, and the first year like we weren't friends. So she would never do her dishes, girl. Never. And like obviously at some point after it's like a week of you not doing your dishes, like I'm just gonna do them because I want it to be clean and not fucking stink with flies. Like fruit flies would be all over our kitchen because she would never do her dishes. And she knew this was a problem. We talked about it multiple times, and she would get better for like a week and then it would get worse. And yeah, so that was something that she definitely had to work on a lot. All right, that's the end of the storytime segment. We're going to move on to the advice segment. So if you want some unprofessional advice from me, the link is below. It's a Google form and it's completely anonymous. This question says, my fiance and I, both women, recently got into an argument over her booking a trip out of state for a concert with her friends without me. She had told me the day prior about the trip happening and how she really wanted me to go with her, but I don't know her friends. That's another issue. So I was hesitant and just said, I don't know, thinking I would have time to think it over. The next morning, she told me she booked her hotel and bought the ticket, which made me really upset as she just mentioned it the night prior. We've talked about it, and she said she's okay with whatever decision I make regarding the trip. I can't really join her as the concert is already sold out, and I also feel like I'm just inserting myself into this trip. I don't want her to go because the situation made me incredibly upset and frustrated with her, and it would feel like I'm putting my own feelings aside, but I also don't want to tell her not to go, as it feels unfair to her. Any advice would be so helpful. Okay, I'm going to be honest and say that I definitely think that it is unfair to not let her go. I think that obviously she said that she wanted you to go on the trip and like it seemed like you didn't really want to. So I feel like if my friends were booking a trip and I would feel like kind of like I needed to book it when they were booking it, and I would be like, "Okay, I'm just going to book the trip then because it seems like you don't want to go, and if you change your mind, you can book the trip too and you can come along with." But like I'm just going to get it over with because I want to be able to like be prepared and have everything booked and go on this trip with my friends, and like it will be really fun. So I definitely think that maybe communication could have been better here, like if you were like, "Hey, I don't know, can I think about it?" And then she booked it without like telling you, then I think that would have been a little different, and you could have been like, "Will you just wait for me?" And like you guys could have talked about it a little bit more, but it seems like you just said like, "I don't know," and then you thought that you would have time to think it over. I would probably do the same, to be honest, if I was like invited my boyfriend on a trip with my friends and he was like, I was like, "I really want you to come." And he was just like, "I don't know." I would probably be like, "Okay, girls, let's book it. Let's go." And I would just be like, "You acted like you didn't want to go. So I'm still going to go on this trip with my friends, and I'm not going to let you saying you don't know like stop me from booking the trip." So I definitely think that maybe you're just being a little too harsh. I'm not really sure what the underlying reasons are, but it does seem like there might be some underlying reasons. But I would just let her go on the trip and have fun. Like, I don't see an issue with that, to be honest. Okay, the next question. Hi, Jamie. I'm a new listener and I've been hooked on your videos. I love your ability to mitigate complex situations. Mine isn't that complex, but I'd appreciate your input. Oh my God, wait. Thanks. I feel like that's such a compliment because I always feel like I'm just like rambling and not even making sense half the time. But, anyways, the advice I'm seeking is on my love life or lack thereof. I, 18 female, started uni this year, currently in my second semester, and I suppose the constant social atmosphere that embodies college, and with February approaching, I'm hyper aware of my singleness. I can't help but compare myself to my friends that have all kissed, hooked up, and or had relationships. Suffice to say, I haven't had any of that. I know that not having done these things isn't too uncommon at my age, but what I find concerning is that in no world can I envision anything romantic happening to me. I'd like it to, I'd really like it to, but it's hard to go after something when you cannot even imagine yourself doing it or having it. Hopefully that makes sense. I've never tried putting it into words. I hate being the person that waits for something to happen to them because in no other area am I that person but this one. If it's worth anything, I recognize that I had a horrible example of what love looks like from my parents without going into too many details. I have the kind of parents that are married but I've never seen hug. Imagine hateful roommates rather than loving life partners. LOL. Recently, as of last semester, I randomly started receiving some attention from guys. Examples: buying drinks, flirting, etc. In those moments, I completely freeze. My question: how do I navigate my reserved feelings? How do I go after it? How do I appear open while I'm simultaneously fearing rejection and feeling insecure from lack of experience? Sorry for the long description. If you read this, thank you so much. Just typing this out feels like a weight off my chest. First, I'm going to say that it sounds like maybe you just aren't super confident, and there's definitely ways that you can work on your confidence. Obviously, yes, putting yourself out there and just like doing it is very important, especially to boost your confidence. And I like hate to be like, you just kind of have to think of it as like, what's the worst that can happen, especially if someone's flirting with you first. It seems like you have gotten some attention from people and you can just, I mean, you're 18, so I'm like, have a couple drinks and get a little loose. I don't know where you live though. So it could be a different drinking age, actually. Obviously, it's 21 in the US, but it sounds like you're maybe from like England or something, because I'm pretty sure that's, they call uni university over in England. But I I hate to be like blunt and just be like, just go for it, just do it. But I definitely think, and I hate to be like, you need to rely on alcohol, but I think like the first few times you could get a little loose. Obviously, you drink, it seems like, because you said that guys have been buying you drinks. Don't get like wasted, but just get a little bit tipsy to the point where you're feeling like a little bit loose and you feel confident, and maybe even challenge yourself to go up to someone that you're interested in and see, like, ask them for their number or something. I don't know. I used to not be the most confident person with that stuff either, but then I think as I like started to kind of put myself out there more and be like bold, I started to gain a lot more confidence. So I feel like this is really the kind of situation where you just have to like break the ice with yourself and then also realize like it's totally fine if no, I'm not interested is the answer. Obviously, you're not everyone's going to be interested in you, and that's totally okay. But I feel like just like practicing and going up to people and kind of putting yourself out there in that way, or even if someone's not hooking, flirting with you, just like flirting back and putting yourself out there, it definitely helps to build confidence. And I feel like the only thing that can really help is like practicing in this case. Like, I definitely think once I started to put myself out there, I would be going out with my friends and I would be like, a couple drinks in, buzzed, like obviously not wasted off my ass, but like I'd be a little bit buzzed and I'd just be like, okay, let me go up to this person that I think is cute. Let me go talk to this person that I think is cute. The least that they can, like, I've had multiple people say they like weren't really interested. Like, not like that, but they definitely weren't acting interested. And obviously, yeah, it's like annoying because you're like, "Ugh, why aren't you interested in me?" But that's gonna happen, and that's totally fine. And then there's gonna be people that you're interested in that are interested in you back, and that's amazing. Doesn't mean that it's like gonna end up being a relationship or anything, but I would just say like put yourself out there without expectations, honestly, and don't like expect a lot, but just you kind of have. Sorry, I just flicked my toenail, literally. What? Am I okay? Hi, sorry to interrupt, but if you could just press the subscribe button, the like button, and leave us a comment, it would really help with the algorithm and pushing out my videos to other people like you who like this type of content. Love you. You kind of have to just put yourself out there too. like I said, build confidence and get more confident about it. But there are other things I feel like you can do, just like talking to, maybe making more friends and putting yourself out there in that way first, and like kind of just building confidence in other ways as well, because it's definitely important to be a confident person and realize what you deserve and have like more self-worth, which seems like maybe you might be lacking. Obviously, I'm not saying that in like a mean way at all, but you're saying that like you feel like you don't deserve this, or you don't think that you see it for yourself, which is obviously wrong. Everyone deserves love and to be courted and to be pursued. And I think once you start to believe that about yourself, that's a different journey in and of itself. It can take a while to build confidence in yourself, but maybe just working on yourself as well and working on your self confidence in different ways would help in the bigger picture of your life. You know what I mean? But that's all I have really for you. And I hope that you can realize that you deserve love and you deserve a romantic connection with someone. And if you want, you deserve to hook up with someone. Like, you do deserve these things, and that's just something that you are going to have to come to realize about yourself and be confident in. And that might take time, and that's okay. So, yeah. But anyways, that's the end of the advice segment. I was going to chit a little bit, I was going to chit I was going to chit chat a little bit about the Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively conversation, which I actually did talk about a little bit in my vlog that I'm putting out on my vlog channel, which is in the description below if you want to subscribe to me on there. I'm going to start putting out, I think I'm going to do like little chit chat videos and then like vlogs of like day in my life, week in my life, and probably 2 to 4 a month I see myself putting out on there. It's just going to be all personal stuff. And yeah, if you want to follow me on there, that'd be amazing. And I'd love you for that. But I did talk about the Blake and Justin Baldoni situation a little bit in the vlog that I'm posting this week. But I feel like my feelings are that there's a lot of he said, she said things going on. And the what's really interesting to me is all the raw footage that I've been seeing that's being put out there, and the text messages that Blake and Justin were sending back to each other. I definitely think there was probably some tension on each end of the situation. And I don't think that I think it's a lot of miscommunication, and then at the same time, I do think that on each end there are probably some truths to each of their stories. And this is the way that like they saw things. I completely believe that Blake Lively did feel sexually harassed in some ways, and I don't think that it's uncommon to act comfortable with someone that you're actually not comfortable with because you have to work with them. And what is she going to do? Like, she's working on the movie with this guy for however long it takes to film a movie, which is usually a while. She's going to be with him all the time. I don't think that it's uncommon. Like, even some people that are sexually assaulted by people end up going and being friends with them and continuing to be friends with them. For the reason for that, I'm not sure. I know that it's like something psychological, obviously. And so I wouldn't say that like Blake Lively was lying and saying that she's a victim of sexual harassment when she really isn't. But I also think that there probably are some things on Justin's side as well that are real as well. And I just think that there was just a lot of probably tension that was built up between the two of them. And I think that it's hard. Obviously, I don't know because I'm not an actor, but I feel like it might be hard to work with someone that is the main character with you, or yeah, pretty like not really the main character. Obviously, it's Lily Bloom, that's the main character, but you're like one of the main characters, and then feeling like this person has more power over the movie than you. I definitely think that, especially because they're both very experienced actors, she might have felt some type of power imbalance, and like, she might have felt a little bit of resentment against him for that, and then it was built up a little bit, and there were just things happening between the two of them that they both were uncomfortable with in certain ways. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. I definitely don't think that, like, I 100% don't think that Blake Lively lied about the way that she was feeling, because obviously there was that meeting in between filming. She was going over the things that she was uncomfortable with, and he signed off on that paper. So I know that that's the truth, and I hate, like, saying that she's just lying, because I just think that's silly, and that's very, like, a societal thing to do. But at the same time, I do think that there was some things that she was doing that was also weird, but which probably was a projection on her end, and her just feeling like imbalance of power, even though she's like, hey, I'm also an experienced actor, I should have a say in this, even though, because he was like the director, she was like a producer, so obviously, like, the balance is off there. He's directing, she's producing, and obviously, like, the director has more access to more things. But I definitely just am so intrigued by the raw footage of that film, because the way that, I don't understand how they don't, like, fall in love with each other. Now I understand why main characters in, like, that are love interests in movies and shows always date, because I'm like, the way that I would not be able to separate the art from the artist. I'd be like, oh, he loves me, and I love him now. Like, they're like touching noses, like laughing. He's like putting his face in her neck, saying like she smells really good, like flirting, obviously, but that's to try to replicate, like, chemistry of the characters, which I completely understand. Like, they need to get along in order to present this type of relationship, this very loving relationship that turns bad at some point, obviously. But yeah, those are my thoughts right now. I think that it's probably a little bit of tension on both sides. Things were happening on both sides that were just building up, and it's all coming out as a shit show now. But anyways, I love you guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please let me know in the comments. If you haven't already, press the subscribe button, the like button, and obviously let me know, like I said, in the comments. We also have a Patreon. It's linked below. I put out a video 4 times a month for the $10 subscribers, and the $5 tier is 2 videos a month. Also, the $10 tier is, I'm going to put out, like, random little chit chats and fun little things that aren't Reddit related, if you're interested in that. But obviously, yeah. So I have a $5 and a $10 tier. That's in the link below. I love you guys so much. I also have a personal vlog coming. It's also in the link below. And yeah, I love you guys, and I hope you have a good day. Please chat with me in the comments. Bye. Love you.